name's Anna Covert, and I'm coming to you live from my battleship here on the beautiful island of Oahu. This week on the Covert Code, the topic is how to stay relevant in an evolving digital landscape. And I'm pleased to introduce Jody Shiroma, the Vice President of Communications for PBS Hawaii and 2023 AdWeek Future Is Female winner. I was first introduced to Jody a couple years ago when she spearheaded the rebrand of Aloha United Way, a pillar nonprofit that helps hundreds of local charities. Thanks for being here today, Jody. To get the
Thanks,
party
Anna.
started, can you please tell us more about how PBS Hawaii has grown its digital presence and what role
Mhm.
you played in its evolution?
That is how long do you have? um, so I joined PBS Hawaii in 2019. I left Aloha United Way where you and I had an opportunity to meet. I was there for a little over 13 years and made the move to PBS Hawaii. And one of the main reasons I was hired here was really to move PBS Hawaii into the digital space. And I think a lot of organizations are or have been moving into the digital space, but PBS nationally and locally, PBS Hawaii has been a broadcast first, organization, right? A station, a television station is what most people think. And so we started when I started in 2019, we started off slowly. I think that we talked about having content digital first, but really, when I took a view of the landscape, a lot of it was broadcast. What we were doing was taking broadcast products and then dropping them in a digital space. So, for instance, we would take a our long story short program, the full episode, and then just put it on YouTube. And it just became a place, it was like a placeholder on YouTube. It wasn't like we were marketing it or promoting it. It was just pretty much a repository of data that we just, for lack of a better description, dumped. And I know
Mhm.
that sounds pretty awful, but I hear that across most public PBS stations nationally. That's what they use YouTube for. And I think part of it was because it was new to a lot of people and they didn't really understand it. And maybe, in fairness, most people did not think that digital would play such a significant role as it does today, right? And so we started with that, and then we would push for digital first content, but it just never evolved in that way. Then the pandemic hit,
Mm.
and I was there for 1 year, and then, came our friend COVID. And so the pandemic hit, and we really had to look at ways to evolve as an organization. Broadcast was and still in many ways is king, but digital has become the queen and or in many ways the king alongside it. So we started to push a lot more of our content on on digital. We knew that we had to reach students because they were working or in school from home. And so we started to use our learning media from PBS National to drive kids to our website, and allowing them to study online. You know, um, we used more Zooms. Our Insights program became more Zoom focused. So we would still have guests in studio on our public affairs shows. And so, but we needed to save space, separate. So we in some ways were forced to move into this direction. Our online screenings became our virtual screenings, excuse me, I'm sorry, I apologize. Our
Mm.
in-person screenings became virtual screenings. So what was once in-person 25 to 50 people evolved into 200 to 500 people attending virtual screenings from the safety and comfort of their own home or workplace, or not just here locally but across the world. Um, so I started to do that during the 5 years that I've been here. I've helped to build our initiatives of our station launches into our PBS Kids 24/7 streaming channel. We've expanded onto multi platforms. We have YouTube TV, we're on Hulu TV Live, we're on local now, we're on Direct TV. So we're doing a lot more in the digital space. My team, my communications department, we do a lot of digital exclusive content. Um, I was able to launch our first audio podcast called What School You Went. And then,
Amazing.
yeah, and then more recently, we just launched a new podcast called Ala Nui Mele, which is street music. So it's a spin off of hip hop in Hawaii and the evolution of it here. So those are kind of the things that we've been, or I've been able to be a part of and responsible for alongside my team and bringing to the forefront.
That's really
And
exciting. I
gosh,
just have a question about subscribers, right?
hmm
Because PBS, a lot of like me, like I subscribe online,
hmm hmm
to the station.
hmm
How have you been able to manage that need if you're now providing this content on YouTube, which isn't
hmm
subscription based? How have you been able to offset that? Are you looking more toward donations, or how's that working for you?
So we still have our traditional ways people can give, like which is through I say traditional means like direct mail pieces.
Mm.
We have a coupon that goes out into our program guide that people can cut out and mail in and and that appeals to a specific demographic. We have Passport, which is our behind the paywall type of programming, which is probably what you're referencing. So an individual pays $60 a month, or excuse me, $60 a year, and they get access to our PBS national and PBS local content, right? So Masterpiece, our
Right. Yeah.
dramas, et cetera, right?
I love me some masterpiece.
You and a lot of other people. Yeah,
Yeah.
Masterpiece is a lot of people's favorites. So we still continue to do that and encourage the subscriber donations. Um, but what we've been trying to do now, and we're still in the infancy stages in many ways, is we're looking at diversifying our giving or diversifying how we receive money, right? So besides direct mail pieces, subscriptions, pledge programs, which is very common for people to see during certain months. We have pledge shows that air on PBS on our broadcast. Then people can donate and receive some type of item, right? So you
Right.
watch, you get a CD if you spend X amount or you donate X amount. So we're trying YouTube monetization. We just did our first live stream with Naleo Pili Mehana, and we did super chat and tipping on the platform to test it kind of out with the audience. In our virtual screenings, we incorporate QR codes so that people have different ways to give um, through more of a digital platform rather than the traditional, I'm going to mail a check in.
Right. I mean, some people don't even have checks anymore, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
And what kind of metrics are you looking at when you
Mhm.
identify is digital working for us?
Are you asking about from a fundraising perspective, or are you
Both.
asking?
How do you know that, you're spending all this time and effort on these wonderful new programs? What does success look like for you when you're with your board and when you're with the team and you're like, you know what, this new program is really taking off? Like, do you have any kind of benchmarks that you evaluate of yes or no?
Um, yes and no. I think that for me, what I think is successful from a marketing initiative would be brand awareness, brand recognition. We have people coming to us, versus us going to them and seeking content. We have a lot more followers on our digital platforms. Our social engagement has increased. We've gotten more shares, more likes, more followers. When we see a video go viral, is considered a successful metric for us. When we see people donating through QR codes or that for us is very new and different, and it's in many ways it's new and different across the entire PBS system as a whole. So when I go up to the national conferences or meet with colleagues across in the marketing or digital space, these are conversations that we have, and these are conversations that some stations are way ahead of the game. Others are maybe in a similar boat as us, and then there's others that are just like they're not even there yet.
Right.
They're just getting into the canoe. Yeah, yeah. But I think, I mean, from a fundraising perspective, um, one of the things that we've seen is now we have digital sponsors, digital only sponsors, whereas most people just looked at digital was like a bonus. You
Right.
buy, you buy a sponsorship on broadcast, and then we'll throw in digital as a plus, right? Now we have people coming to us, organizations just say, I want to sponsor your digital only content. We even
Wow.
have a sponsor of just our social media content. So for various programs. So it's really neat to see the ROI in that capacity. So for us, those are I would say non-traditional metrics type, I mean, there's the traditional ones like the engagements, the shares, the ROIs, but there's also this indirect look at these successes that we've had where 5 years ago when I started, I don't think people would have bought digital, to
Right.
be quite frank. They would have just looked at it as like, well, just give it to me for free
Right.
or, test it out, right? But not see it as a space that they wanted to be in.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And when you create these new types of shows, what is your process there?
So for our team here is really collaborative. It's a beautiful thing. We don't necessarily work in silos like a lot of organizations do or have, right? Um, I oversee the communications department. So my team, actually we met today. So we meet every Tuesday and we kind of brainstorm ideas. So like the Alanui Mele podcast, which is the Hawaiian street music, came from one of my employees and he's very ingrained in the hip hop culture. And PBS National did a documentary on hip hop in America. And he was like, why don't we do something local? Why don't we localize it and do something and showcase the hip hop culture in Hawaii and the evolution of that? And, to be quite frank, probably in I don't know, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, we probably would never have done something like hip
Right.
hop, right? We're PBS.
Yeah.
Why would we do
Very
that, right?
forward.
Yeah, and so he came and I was like, "I love the idea." I pitched it to my boss, and my boss was like, "Yeah, let's do it." So he has continued to create these podcasts. He brings in, DJs, street artists, dancers, and he's talking to them about the evolution of hip hop from their perspective, and it's pretty amazing, So when you ask about a process, sometimes it's as easy as I have this idea. What do you think? Let's pitch it, love it. Maybe it needs some work. We're working on something coming up with uh, Bishop Museum. It's about Hawaiian history and Hawaiian culture. That's been in the works for a little over a year, and it's still moving, but the process is a little longer just because there's a lot of moving parts. Another employee is working on a reggae documentary. So, shameless plug, it's going to come out at the end of 2024. But he had this idea of wanting to do a long format documentary. So, that was another idea. Just, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? I think it's great. Pitch it to our boss. Our boss likes it and says, let's move forward. But obviously, through the entire process of getting greenlit, we have to be held accountable, right? You can't just have an idea and then 5 years later,
Right.
you're still massaging that idea, right? With other more station-wide initiatives like Our Home is Here monthly program, that was something our content department came up, and then we kind of tossed around ideas. We did an internal ask about coming up with a name for the program. We also have a system where either externally people can submit recommended suggestions for stories, or internally we can present too. So it's a lot of brainstorming, idea sharing for content creation to come about.
That's really cool. I love how young you're keeping it. I think
Yeah.
that that's one of the
Mhm.
struggles of I think when we think of PBS, at least when we think of it, we have an idea in our mind that it's not for young people necessarily. Well, for really young people, for the kids, but then they're kind of like
Yeah.
and think that's really wonderful that you guys are keeping it so fresh and that's really what the digital is really all about, right? Is being able to reach those younger or evolving audiences and provide more opportunities to engage, right? With and provide their voice.
I think you actually hit the nail on the head, Anna. It's like a lot of people's perception when I say perception when I say, "Oh, I work for PBS Hawaii." They're like, "Oh, Sesame Street."
Right?
"Oh,
Yeah.
I used to watch it when I was a child," or and then like, "So what do you watch now?" I watch Sesame Street, you know, or my kids' watch it, or as grandparents, my children watched it, and now my children's children's are watching it, right? And so it's been from a branding perspective, I mean, PBS has been steeped in so much tradition. And, as a brand, kind of like Aloha United Way, the brand, when began working at Aloha United Way, the brand was very antiquated and outdated. The model of a fundraising approach was not appreciated by many. And so we had to really evolve the brand and make it fresh and cool and hip again, make people want to be part of something bigger than themselves, right? Which was our motto at when I was there at Aloha United Way. For
Yeah.
PBS Hawaii, it's the same. Um, and the beauty of it moving into a digital space is there's so much acceptance and appreciation of content creation, you
Hmm.
know? And there's a true renaissance now of a Hawaiian cultural renaissance. So like the content we pulled out of our archives, all this old classic footage from programs called Pauhana Years and Spectrum. And we weren't certain how it would do, but we had this vast archive of, content from like the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And we put it out on broadcast and we also did it on digital and it blew up. I
Yeah.
mean, people were hungry for this, I mean, people would, email us or they would post comments on social and say like, "Oh, that was my dad," or "That was my old neighborhood,"
Wow.
or and it's been really neat to see that, and a lot of the interest has been like then and now. So this was Waikiki in like the 60s and 70s, and look at Waikiki now, or this
Wow.
was Waianae and Waianae now, or Kalihi and then Kalihi now. So it's pretty neat to see, like, just personally too, that a younger generation is so hungry for this appreciation of nostalgia or vintage or old Hawaii. It's almost a craving, you
Yeah.
know? And it's a beautiful thing actually. Yeah.
Is the authentic. I think a lot of now, like with the this young movement, my daughter, and everyone's on iPads and they're not spending much time outside, right?
Mm, yeah.
Or, and it's like they crave authenticism, right? Or
Mhm.
what's authentic. And I
Mhm.
think that it's hard to know, especially with AI and bots
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
things being created. And you can't trust as much as we could in the past. So I
Mhm.
think like getting to see what it was like,
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
really exciting. Yeah, it's really cool. So, where do you think, what do you think the biggest hurdle for traditional broadcasts is in adoption to online?
I think you just talked about it. I think the proliferation of fake news and
Hmm.
deepfake, like really knowing in a digital space what's real and what's not, because there's so much misinformation. I think that I think one of the biggest challenges again for also for broadcast is, you know, understanding that there is people are consuming media differently, and that broadcast has to evolve. It's almost like magazines and newspapers. Like I see a lot of newspaper organizations are now doing news on Instagram. They're
Right.
having vlogs and things like that. And I think that to me is probably one of the largest challenges for traditional broadcasters. Investing in the resources and the equipment needed, both people as well as systems and education and knowledge of what the digital space looks like and how do you adapt to that while also balancing out the traditional broadcast means, right? Like now, like here, for instance, we have broadcasts, but all our insights are live weekly. Thursday public affairs show insights. We also stream that. We take the broadcast feed and we stream it onto Facebook and we stream it to YouTube. and then we also have it on our website. So the Facebook and the YouTube are interactive because people can comment, they can post, they can, it's very interactive. Where broadcast is not interactive in that way. People can call in and they can ask questions or they can send us emails. But having the capacity to understand and the people and the knowledge to be able to take that broadcast feed and push it through other digital platforms, and then the capacity to and resources to engage, right? And in ways that those platforms require you to do so.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one thing to just put a Facebook live up or a YouTube live, and but then there's no dialogue, no engagement, no interaction. What people are really used to from that becomes challenging, right? So I
Right.
think from a broadcaster, we have our broadcaster perspective, we have to understand that that's part of the adoption into a digital landscape. It's not just, okay, we're on Zoom, or okay, we
Right.
have a Facebook live or a YouTube live, but you do, and then how are you like
Yeah, I
incorporating
mean
it?
that is like I think that's exactly what we think about for traditional
Mhm,
broadcast, right? It's
mhm.
one directional, right?
Yes.
We're
Mhm.
speaking to the audience, and that's
Correct.
until the social and reviews.
Mhm.
That's basically how it was. If you had a complaint, you had to write a letter, and send it in, and maybe they got it, maybe they didn't. But now, to be a thought leader, you
Mhm.
do have to welcome and engage
Yes.
and ask for that engagement, positive or negative,
Mhm.
and be able to manage it in real time. So I think that that's really a triumph that you
Yeah.
guys are understanding that and making it accessible to
Yeah,
the
y and it's not easy. I mean, truth be told, like, having to see, comment like, we did our live stream with Naleo Pilimehana, and we right in the beginning, we had a little bit of a glitch because of the sound wasn't coming through, and that feed, like, "I don't have sound. Where's the sound? This is the sound," or, "Where's the I mean, it was, like, nonstop, and then it in some spaces, you could freak out. Like,
right.
"Oh my god, what do we do?" Right? But I think our team managed it beautifully. We chat while they were, fixing the missing link. I just said, "We appreciate your patience." And it's just that constant communication, right? Like not like freaking out, but just like having the dialogue and saying, "Yeah, we know you can't hear us, but you can read," right? And
Practice
so
your lip reading.
yeah, yeah, we are not on. Yeah. But after we got it fixed, I mean, then people were like, "Hey," but it's just that initial. It's like you said, real time conversations. It would be like you and I talking right now, and then just like, "Okay, I can't hear you," or like, "What do we do to fix it?" Right?
Right.
And you don't want to mess up, but the reality is sometimes we're in a digital. Things happen. Sound doesn't
Oh,
come through.
they happen all the time. I used to I'm like for me, I think I've over the last couple of years gotten more used to that
Mhm,
too, right?
mhm,
We could do all this code and we can have backups and we can have, API integrations,
mhm.
but the events break, Google Analytics code stops
Yeah.
working, forms
Mhm,
stop working, and just being able to it's not panicking and feeling bad about it. It's about being, knowing having the systems in place to fix it quickly,
mhm.
and that's like really the future here, right?
Oh,
It
yeah,
just
and
takes a little.
being adaptable, right? Like things happen. I mean, it happens. So, how are you going to move forward and manage yourself and your team and the system and the event or whatever is happening, the live stream, right? So that it gets fixed quickly.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's exciting. So where do you see PBS in the next 5 years? Or PBS Hawaii, I should say.
Yeah, PBS Hawaii. I
Yeah.
think that we are doing an incredible job of continuing to evolve in the digital space. And I think we will continue to evolve in the digital space. I'd like to say that broadcast will still be around. We'll continue to do that, but I think we'll be doing more and more digitally, like the things we're doing now, like the exclusive digital content or and when I say that, I mean content you can only find on digital. It's not living on broadcast, right? We'll be doing more live streaming. I think we'll be continuing to do virtual screenings and maybe doing even more of those. I would like to say that maybe our public affairs show will have a Insights 2.0 or something where we we take a version of what exists on broadcast and maybe have it on in a digital space, right? Where people can have these types of conversations online um, in a more familiar platform that a younger demographic is used to, but are still very conscious about community, about politics, about public affairs, right? Where they may not watch it on broadcast, but they still want to have a dialogue and civil discourse online. So I think I'd like to see us move. And this is just my own humble opinion. I'm not like the keeper of all things knowing. um,
What? Really?
um, I'd like to see us doing more podcasts.
Yeah.
I think there's so many podcasts seem to be the way a lot of people are going. And I think podcasts are the now and the future, and maybe on different subject matter. I mean, we are an educational organization, and I think, you can learn so much from a podcast. Right now, most of our podcasts, or actually both of them, are audio. And we do shoot some video footage, but I think it would be neat to see us move into not just an audio podcast, but also but a video space as well, right?
Yeah.
Because you have like I'm not a fan of his, but like Joe Rogan, he has both, and he has really long format um podcasts, like video podcasts. Howard Stern, like a lot of people have taken the podcast into a video space, and like, like you have a 2-hour interview with Bruce Springsteen, or et cetera, et cetera, and people tune in and they're hungry for that, right? So I
Yeah, it's
think
amazing how much many people are listening and yeah, I think it's great.
engaging, yeah. So I think it'd be nice for us to tap in and dabble into the things we're currently doing, and then maybe even push the envelope a little bit more, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Does. Well, awesome. Well, then to oh, sorry, the mailman, the mailman's here. Very exciting times.
Yeah.
Well, to conclude, I want to tell our viewers about this award that you won on Adweek because it was very exciting for the
Mm.
local Hawaii girl to be recognized in such a amazing way. So if you could tell us more about how that all happened.
Yeah, so I was selected as a Adweek Future Is Female, and I was actually nominated by my older daughter. I have two daughters, but my older daughter, who's away she's a freshman in college, she nominated me. And the contest really recognizes women for their work ethic, their impact and change on, well, I guess, change that they've created within their personal and professional lives, and their ability to live by the values as a future is female leader. And truth be told, I think the future is not female. The now is female, right? I think females are doing a lot of amazing things, and so yeah, so I was nominated, and I got a letter saying that, oh, you were nominated and you made the short list, which was 25 women from across a variety of different industries, and across the nation. No one was from Hawaii, and I think that I've out of all the times they've run this contest, I'm the only person who is from Hawaii who made the original 25 shortlist. And then they had a event in New York, the awards ceremony, to announce the actual winners, right? And so, of course, I work for nonprofit. I'm a single mom of two, and I was like, oh, I'm super honored and humbled and grateful to have been shortlisted to the top 25. But I don't think I need to, you as a parent, like, I'm balancing out like my financials, right? Like, do I spend it to go to New York
That's
and
a
maybe,
far way away.
yeah,
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 yeah.
and like, is
11
that,
hours or whatever, right?
yeah, and I love New York and I love New York City, but I had to make, I mean, as a single mom, you have to make hard choices, in many
Yeah.
ways, right? So, I said, it's great, but can't make the event. Mahalo. Thank you for the
Mhm.
opportunity. Then they had the awards event, and I was like, well, I wonder who won, And then lo and behold, a picture pops up with my photo on it with my name listed, and there's they took the initial nominees, they broke it down to the 25, which was shortlisted, and then they took it to the top 10, and I was one of the top 10. So I was, you know, selected as a Future Is Female. So I'm really humbled and honored, and you know, it made me feel good because my daughter, nominated me. So it makes me realize that like all the voluntold volunteer weekends and community service activities and events and fundraisers and things that I took her and her sister to, had an impact on them and a positive impact, right? So, yeah, and was featured on a podcast to talk about empathy and my girl tribe, which is myself, my two daughters, and my dog, who's a girl, and how, what we do in life and some of the values that I hope that I've instilled in them. So, thank you for asking. It's
That
a
is wonderful.
incredible honor.
You deserve it. Not
Oh,
that anyone deserves it. It's
thank you.
you. And from that, have you attracted any? Has it? Have you? Has anything happened after? Like, did you attract any new donors or
Hmm.
anyone to reach out or I'm always interested in that.
I think like with any award, you get a lot of solicitations for like insurance.
Oh.
More like business things like that type of
Right.
solicitations, real estate, insurance, etc. But I have made a lot of really great contacts through LinkedIn. So I've had people reach out to me and we've connected, and now I feel like I've forged relationships, right, with them. I've also been asked like to be on podcasts like, like with you, and then I'm speaking at a YWCA Patsy Mink leadership series in 2 months. And
Nice.
so there's been opportunities, indirect opportunities in that way, which I value. I think those ways to connect and network with people, but not anything like, you know, like a large endowment or anything.
Right. Well,
It's not come
that's
my
nice.
way. Yeah.
Sharing the mission and your
Mhm.
passion and commitment to the people
Yes.
of
Yeah.
Hawaii. Really
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. And to learn more about PBS Hawaii, visit pbshawaii.org. And to connect with Jody, you can find her on LinkedIn or on some of the links on our digital format of this blog on covert.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna, for having me.